This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's December 2nd, 2025. On this day in 1763, on what was the second day of Hanukkah that year, the oldest purpose-built synagogue in the United States was dedicated in Newport, Rhode Island. Touro Synagogue, as it's now known, was a long time coming. There had been Jewish people in that community for a full century at that point, and a Jewish cemetery for almost as long. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. We don't often hear much about the presence of Jewish folks in the colonial era, or even really in the first 100 years or so after the United States became a nation. But they absolutely were part of the story from nearly the start, and the same is true for Middle Tennessee. Now, growing up in Rutherford County, I didn't meet anyone who I knew to be Jewish until I was in high school. I'm sure I did come into contact with Jews before then, just not realizing it. But I share that tidbit to show how easy it was to be unaware of a Jewish presence in our community as recently as the 80s and 90s. And honestly, that may still be the case for people growing up outside of Davidson County. But in addition to being the anniversary of a significant milestone in America's overall Jewish history, today is also the anniversary of the first birth of a Jewish child in this city. And that joyous event actually happened before the state of Tennessee was even founded. Baby Sarah was born in Nashville in 1795. She was the daughter of Benjamin and Hannah Hayes Myers. It's not clear why the Myers came to Nashville, which was a brand new settlement at that point. But they didn't stay long. Their next child was born a year later in Virginia. And honestly, that's kind of how things went for Jewish life in Nashville for a little while. Individuals or households would come, and then they would go. But by 1848, Nashville had a small Jewish community. The title of the book where I learned about baby Sarah sums up how many were here when they decided they'd become a critical mass. It's called 5 Families and 8 Young Men. And that was enough for organized worship. Now, initially, that very first congregation met in the home of a man named Isaac Garrettson. 3 years in, they purchased land in what is now North Nashville for a cemetery. By 1853, they were ready to hire a rabbi and pay him $600 a year. And a few years later, things had advanced to the point where they wanted a sort of jack of all trades where Jewish religion and customs were concerned. Someone who could be a spiritual leader, but who also had the singing skills to be a cantor, who would teach Hebrew lessons, could perform circumcisions, and ideally operate a kosher butcher shop as a day job. And that list suggests to me that the mindset of Nashville's Jewish community had grown from pioneering individuals forging a path on their own to a true community of people who prioritized a fully formed, religiously observant Jewish life. A year or so ago, I visited the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience, and from what I learned there, it seems there weren't many places in the antebellum South where the story played out like this. Certainly only in cities, mostly in those along the Atlantic or Gulf coasts. In many places, well into the 19th century, it was more common for one Jewish family to open a store in a small town and live a life as the only Jews in town. So it is significant to learn that Nashville had not just a rabbi, not just enough men to regularly hold prayers, but a ritual bath or mikveh in place before the Civil War broke out. They also, evidently, had a lot of disagreements. The Jewish people who ended up in Nashville came from various parts of Eastern Europe. And so even before the evolution of the more modern groupings of Judaic practice into Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox congregations, the folks here in Nashville didn't always agree on which regional customs or rites to follow. And while they did have enough people to get pretty organized on the major points, there weren't really enough of them to support splintering into multiple congregations. Now, that's not to say that didn't happen. They did split a few times over those disagreements, only to keep rejoining back into one group when the offshoots found they were way too small to handle the logistics of keeping things going. Now, in the 1870s, if I'm understanding the very complicated history correctly, most of Nashville's Jews were under the umbrella of one congregation when they built a magnificent structure that I really, really wish I could see with my own eyes. From what I've heard of our lost historic buildings, the Vine Street Temple is absolutely at the top of the list that makes me say, whoa, Nashville had a building like that? For real? It stood on 7th Avenue. From old black and white photos, I can see that it was a large brick building with a generous stone staircase leading from the street up to the main entrance. Above the door was a large window in the shape of a Star of David, echoed by smaller windows in that shape to either side. But the really impressive part was even above that. Rising from the roof were multiple turrets of various sizes, each topped with an onion dome. There were 9 in all. The inside is supposed to have been just as impressive. Lots of carved walnut, beautiful chandeliers, a curved ceiling that provided fantastic acoustics. Oh, and those Star of David windows were evidently made from stained glass, so add colored beams of light streaming into the space, too. Now, in the 50s, as many Nashvillians lost interest in the downtown core, the building was razed to make way for a parking garage. The precipitating factor was a lightning strike that damaged one of the domes. But honestly, by that point, things had just become more complicated. Jewish communities all over the U.S. had broken into the subgroups that exist now, and Nashville was no exception. The Reform congregation that had held out downtown was ready to move farther out to the west side, like the Orthodox and conservative groups had already done. And like some Christian groups were doing too. For example, the Temple's migration to Belle Meade happened at roughly the same time that First Presbyterian moved out to Oak Hill. When you look at the lives people were living in the 50s, at the way so many people embraced the suburbs, it makes sense that a downtown synagogue just stopped making sense for Nashville's Jewish community. And a lot of the choices those congregations have made since about where to have their places of worship, how they should look and fit into the city's neighborhoods, it all makes sense with the way they live now and what their current needs are. But along with feeling like we missed out on the chance to see a really cool building, not having the Vine Street Temple anymore also seems like the loss of a certain visibility that used to tell all Nashvillians, not to mention people visiting here, that this city isn't just the buckle of the Bible Belt. Protestant Christian voices may be the loudest here, but diversity of religion has always been a part of our city's fabric. Nashville's always been, at least a little bit, Jewish. In just a few minutes, we'll visit a Clarksville farm that doubles as a high school classroom. That's coming up after the newscast.
Thematic Static on WNXP is the mixtape we make together. A themed set loosely organized by you, the listener, handpicking songs according to a theme. Airing first Thursdays at 9 a.m. and again Saturdays at 9 a.m., Thematic Static plucks your requests from the socials at WNXP Nashville and by voice memo at 615-320-9100. Thematic Static, the mixtape we make together, supported by United Record Pressing, only on WNXP.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Today's special congressional election in Tennessee is expected to be much closer than in years past. Despite Republicans taking the 7th congressional district by 22 points last year, polling by Emerson College shows GOP candidate Matt Van Epps leading Democrat Acton Bain by just 2 points. John Geer is a professor of political science at Vanderbilt University. He says he's skeptical of polling in a race with such a short runway, but he sees other indicators that the 7th district is more competitive this year.
There are real benefits to having a competitive race. It forces the candidates to respond to each other. It informs the electorate. And Tennessee has been missing that over the last decade or so.
Republican Mark Green retired from the seat in July, prompting the special election to replace him. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in most of the district. The Trump administration has extended a deadline for Vanderbilt University to sign on to the president's higher education compact. The deal would offer preferential federal grant money in exchange for aligning with the Trump administration's priorities. Those include rules relating to admissions, gender, and campus politics. The Nashville Business Journal reports the deadline was originally set for November and has now been extended. Vanderbilt has so far been non-committal on the compact. Several other schools have rejected it, a move urged by Vanderbilt's faculty senate as well as hundreds of protesters on campus last month. 3 candidates are the finalists to become the next state Supreme Court justice. 2 are criminal appeals judges, J. Ross Dyer and Kyle Hickson. The third is Memphis lawyer Shea Silk Welford. Governor Bill Lee will make his choice to replace Supreme Court Justice Holly Kirby, who is retiring. The nominee must be confirmed by a majority of the state House and Senate. The 5-panel Supreme Court hears criminal and civil cases with a focus on reviewing cases related to the Constitution. A 5-year-old child with autism is being charged with assault in Sumner County by the families of his classmates. The Tennessean reports the charges stem from an incident at H.B. Williams Elementary School when the boy allegedly had an outburst. No injuries were listed in the report, and the school nurse cleared all the children. Originally, a school resource officer, Larry Burke, brought charges against the kindergartner, but the district attorney's office declined to prosecute and dismissed the case. Now, parents of 2 of the boys' classmates are bringing charges through private prosecution, where people can bring charges against a juvenile and argue the case themselves. It's pending in the Sumner County Juvenile Court. Some of the storm-damaged trails at Montgomery Bell State Park have reopened. The park took a direct hit from a wind and hailstorm in early November, which knocked out power and downed hundreds of trees. WPLN's LaTonya Gonzalez says crews have been cutting their way through obstructed trails.
Right around Thanksgiving, the park reopened 2 roadways. The trails have demanded huge efforts. At one point, some 180 areas were blocked, often by multiple downed trees. About half of the trails have now reopened.
The state park says visitors are welcome on the following trails: Montgomery Bell, Wildcat, Ore Pit, and Baker Cemetery. There's no estimate as to when other areas will reopen. The estate of country star Johnny Cash is suing Coca-Cola for misrepresenting the singer. The estate accuses the soft drink company of illegally mimicking Cash's voice and image for a college football ad that's been airing since August. Cash died 22 years ago. The voice in the ad is performer Sean Barker, a professional impersonator. The Man in Black's estate filed the lawsuit in the Middle District of Tennessee. It's relying on the state's Elvis Act, which protects musicians from artificially generated voice and image. Tennessee was the first in the country to enact such laws. Well, it's time to roll up the sleeves. This time of year, blood donations historically go down. Blood Assurance supplies many hospitals in Middle Tennessee. It normally stocks 1 to 2 days' supply of blood, but is now well below. All donors will receive a special holiday gift. Those with O negative and AB positive can receive a $25 e-gift card. Those are always welcomed as they are considered universal for patients of any blood type. If you wonder where your blood helps, well, first of all, local donations are distributed to medical providers in the local community. A single donation can help 3 people undergoing surgery, transfusions, or cancer care. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Many high schools teach agriculture, helping students learn about livestock and farming in a classroom setting. But on the outskirts of Clarksville, a local teacher has built a small farm on school land where the kids can get their hands dirty and gain real-world experience. Lily Burris with member station WKMS has this story.
Macy Cook, a senior at Northwest High School, is talking to a steer, trying to calm the cow as it stands in the farm's new cattle chute. She's out here to gain first-hand know-how with livestock as she pursues a career in large animal veterinary medicine. But she says it's no picnic.
It comes off as easy, but it's not. It's time, it's labor, it's sometimes waking up at 6 in the morning to get to the shows.
Cook comes to the farm almost every school day, tending to livestock and other farm chores as she learns the ins and outs of agriculture as a business. That's what her ag teacher, Megan Clegg, says has always been the goal for the program, teaching kids how products get from farm to table.
When I was teaching, there was a little bit of a disconnect. They didn't understand production agriculture. They loved animals, they understood animals, but not production agriculture.
From her earliest days teaching, Clegg wanted to give students a space to learn about and interact with livestock and to connect them with their region's agricultural roots. That dream came true 5 years ago when the community came together to outfit an unused outdoor classroom space away from the main campus, outside Clarksville. The farm now boasts a pole barn with a pair of steers, a beehive, a pond, and, as soon as the students finish it, a new livestock pen. Clegg, who's originally from Arkansas, says the parents of former students and community members bought into the idea, helping her connect with the area's ag community.
A lot of networking is what really has made this farm project thrive. The community cares on so many different levels. You know, agriculture is just so important, and people in agriculture understand that.
Local folks stepped up, donating one of the cows and even the bees. Clegg says it's because people in Montgomery County, home to the fast-growing city of Clarksville, want the community to continue investing in the ag industry.
It's for the continuation of agriculture, because feeding America is important, but it's for the kids to learn. So I think that unifies us in the mission of this.
As a teacher, Clegg says she tries to create an environment where kids can learn organically and be able to think independently to solve problems on the school's farm.
I think I love it that they have enough confidence in themselves and that I support them enough that they know that they can share their ideas. I love it when the kids know that they can suggest an idea and know that I'm listening.
Actually caring for and working with livestock, Clegg says, helps her students understand how products made from livestock wind up in grocery stores. She remembers a particular case of a student making that connection with a cow.
This basketball player who had never set foot on a farm until coming here, he looks at me and he goes, "Miss Clegg, this is where my hamburger comes from." And I was like, yeah, man, this is.
Junior Kai Lazinski grew up on a farm, and he's a part of the school's FFA chapter, which uses the farm for the show team. He says being involved with the program is getting him ready to pursue his goal of starting a cattle operation with his best friend.
Well, I think it functions as a stepping stone, a way to get your feet wet into the program and get started in what's going to be the rest of my life.
Clegg hopes a new crop of students will continue to reap the benefits of the farm as the program keeps growing. I'm Lily Burris in Clarksville.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.